I seen this news yesterday. Rolls-Royce signs contract to build UK's first SMRs at Wilfa. This is an announcement about a nuclear power plant in Wales. The UK government has committed £2.5 billion in funding to this nuclear power plant. On top of that, the National Wealth Fund is going to add £600 million. That is the floor figure. The full cost is not yet publicly fixed. But Hinkley Point C, a more conventional nuclear project, has already reached £46 billion, or £14,100 per kilowatt of capacity. That makes Britain the most expensive country on earth to build a nuclear power plant. Nuclear is the dominant capital allocation in the UK energy infrastructure. In plain terms, the government is pouring billions into nuclear energy. My first question was, what about the waste? Waste is unresolved. They don't have an answer for that. They don't have an answer for how much it's going to cost, and they don't have an answer for what will they do with the nuclear waste. Rolls-Royce themselves have confirmed that one of these SMRs over 60 years generates about 285 cubic meters of spent fuel, about the size of a tennis court stacked a meter high. The spent fuel holds more than 99% of the radioactivity. It is high-level waste and it must be isolated for hundreds of thousands of years. There is no operating UK geological disposal facility. Nobody has an answer to the question, where does this even go? The design documents from Rolls-Royce assume that eventually the UK was going to need a GDF and that will eventually take the fuel. But there's no contingency in their plans. Until or unless a disposal solution is found or created for this nuclear waste, it stays on site in Wales. Researchers at Stanford and the University of British Columbia found that most of these SMR designs increase the volume of waste needing management and disposal by a factor of 2 to 30 compared with large reactors. Some of these SMR concepts use chemically exotic fuels and coolants that create a more complex waste stream that may need even more costly treatment in the future. And the UK government's own advisory body flagged that fuel waste and management is a key issue that absolutely must be resolved as part of Rolls-Royce's licence, which it's not. Wilva already holds legacy waste from the Magnox station that was shut down in 2015, with fuel that was removed from Sellafield placed on the site temporarily. What's incredibly maddening about this very short-sighted project with no contingency for waste and huge potential for budget overrun and already costing billions is that it's actually not even needed to power British homes. The local Welsh government and a number of NGOs keep pointing that the billions going to this Wilva site could be funding a mass retrofit of Welsh homes instead. Simply retrofitting old Welsh homes would cut emissions and bills immediately, not in the 2030s. Local Welsh people don't want this in their back garden, nor is it needed. The Welsh Government has already done a lot of work on understanding what it would take to decarbonise energy in the region and in the UK. They say that simply being more efficient with the energy that is already available is the most underutilised lever that we have. They are asking the centralised government in Westminster for more money to retrofit homes and install heat pumps. The government in London heard that and said, let's give billions to Rolls-Royce instead. Friends of the Earth and others keep pointing out that UK onshore wind and solar alone could produce many times current household demand if the government removed planning and investment barriers. Let me repeat that. Wind and solar could be producing many times what Britain needs without nuclear waste. Research collated by Greenpeace showed multiple peer-reviewed pathways to 100% or near 100% renewables, with the UK renewables industry saying 100% renewable electricity by 2032 is technically feasible if backed politically. Wales in particular sits on big untapped tidal and offshore wind resource. The Welsh Government are talking about the potential of floating offshore wind and tidal lagoons, but the money is going to these SMRs. Wales has created a number of plans for community renewables and local supply models. Yet time and time again, these models run into the same financial and regulatory barriers that the central government has not bothered to dismantle. The central government has been far too busy creating a bespoke Great British nuclear vehicle. Their approach to transitioning Britain to renewable energy is simply to reclassify nuclear as environmentally sustainable. See, it was only a classification problem. The risk? Fictitious. So rather than just give the local Welsh government the money that it needs to retrofit homes and start installing wind turbines offshore, Westminster has spent billions of taxpayer money creating a new bureaucracy. There is no equivalent Great British insulation or Great British tidal or Great British wind or Great British storage. No, just nuclear. Even though public attitude data consistently shows that people prefer investment in wind and solar over nuclear, then why does policy keep bending away from what the public want and towards nuclear? Because Westminster has centralised control over the infrastructure and defence industrial interests keep entering the room. This company, Great British Energy, is a Crown-owned company, but it's not the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero. It's kept at arm's length. Why? The government says its statutory function is to facilitate the design, construction, commissioning and operation of nuclear energy. It does not own the reactors. It does not own the technology. It does not retain the intellectual property. It selects the contractor. It structures the deal. And then it transfers public money to a private company who does own the technology, who does own the reactors, who does own the intellectual property. They are set up to receive £2.62 billion from HM Treasury over this Parliament. They are also set to receive £599 million from the National Wealth Fund on top of that. They then sign a contract with Rolls-Royce, a private company. Rolls-Royce designs and builds the reactors. Rolls-Royce owns the reactors. It also owns the IP. If Rolls-Royce later decide to deploy the exact same design in Sweden or Poland, it does so as a commercial venture, using the technology developed substantially on this British public money. There's no mechanism for Britain to claw back any share of those returns. This is just a funnel that takes taxpayer money and gives it to Rolls-Royce. Simon Bowen is the chair of Great British Nuclear. He started his career as an engineer in the Royal Navy serving on submarines. He is not a civil servant. He is a submarine officer who moved through the petrochemical and nuclear industries before being appointed as the industry advisor to lead the setup. In other words, the man who designed the procurement body is the same man who now chairs it. He is paid by the government body that is channeling £2.62 billion to the private sector. This is Simon Roddy, and he is the CEO of GBN. He spent 33 years at Shell, most recently as Senior Vice President for Shell UK, overseeing the North Sea operation. Shell is a fossil fuel major with a direct financial interest in Britain not having cheap, fast, distributed renewable energy that undercuts gas. And his mailing address on Companies House is the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero. These are not public servants, they are industry insiders approved to government-branded bodies to manage the transfer of public money into private industry. Wind turbines and solar panels do not require a standing army of nuclear engineers. They do not produce material that requires a security state to guard it. They do not generate classified knowledge, and they do not preserve Britain's great power status. They do not produce export IP owned by a FTSE 100 company, and they do not require 60-year planning horizons controlled by a central government. Wind turbines and solar panels can be owned by Welsh social enterprise. They can go on farmhouse roofs. They are structurally ungovernable. Britain's grid has not been updated to handle renewable generation. That is policy failure. Follow the money.